Hey guys, I have been waiting for this one all week. All week. The fabulous Jemele Hill is joining us. Hello, everyone. I bring you greetings from my house in a very rain-filled state of Maryland. I'm really excited about tonight. We're going to talk about everything with Jemele. I'm so thankful for everyone who watched last night with Holly Robinson Pete. We talked about autism, Autism Awareness Month. We have got a lot going on. And oops, tomorrow night, I'm trying to bring, tomorrow night, we've got a surprise. I'll tell you who it is in the end of this great conversation with the great Jemele Hill. Oh, look who how, how you doing?
I'm good. And I feel like I tell on myself every time I do these Instagram lives because everybody I'm on with has on a nicely beat face like you do right now, April Ryan.
I did it myself. The people look. What DL said to me, he said, "Girl, quarantine is working for you, hair and face." I said, "I have time to do it."
Well, see, here's the thing. I don't know how to do my own makeup, so I'm in the struggle. Like I never learned as much as I was on TV every day,
You
for
had
basically.
someone else do it for you.
Yeah, because at ESPN they have makeup artists, and then even when I do speaking engagements, when I'm on TV or whatever, or even sometimes when I have to go out, like I hire a makeup artist. So now I'm just like, y'all just gonna have to accept this natural face.
Let me tell you something. You are beautiful no
Thank
matter
you.
what. And let me say this to you though. What I've learned, I've watched the makeup artists, and I said there will be a day that I'm going to have to do it myself. So I learned how. Look, I'll tell you. There. Okay. It's all about shading.
Ooh,
Anastasia, the Anastasia cream kit that will help. Okay.
okay,
That's
okay.
I'll tell you.
I
I'll tell
needed
you
that
about it.
tip. I
I'll
needed
tell
that tip. Yeah, because it's. I thought I was gonna actually be on MSNBC last weekend, and they wound up bumping me for somebody else, and I called. Yeah. Oh no. Trust me, it was an important person. It made total sense.
What?
Okay. So they wound up bumping me, and I called my girl Tony, who does my makeup here, and she was like, "I got a whole kit that has all your stuff in it." She's like, "I can drop it right on your porch, and then you just FaceTime me, and I'll tell you how to put everything on." So I had the backup plan, but yeah, it's been rough. It's been rough for your girl. I ain't had on makeup. This is the longest stretch I've gone without makeup
But
in
your skin is thanking you.
years.
Your skin looks so pretty and
Oh
clear.
well, thank you.
You're good. So let me introduce you before we are
Okay.
all into the girl stuff. But let me tell you something. You have cool points, makeup or not. I'm telling you, you can do sports. I don't. My boyfriend has had me watching that Michael Jackson I'm not Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan,
Michael
Lord have
Jordan,
mercy.
yeah.
Michael Jordan. I mean, the Last Dance. See, that's what I'm saying. The Last Dance. And then he's watching all the old things. I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, okay, so I have to support him. But
Mm.
guys, let's go into who we have here. Super, super bad sister. You don't see her cape? Oh my God, it's brandishing in the wind right now behind her. Contributor for The Atlantic, podcaster. She has a podcast. Jemele Hill is Unbothered. And she's a co-host of a podcast with Van Lathan called Way Down in the Hole about the TV show The Wire. Now, let me tell you something. I'm from Baltimore.
Yep. So you know.
But you know what? And it's crazy. I didn't watch The Wire. Oh, a little bit of my makeup needs to be pulled in. But anyway, that's okay. Um, I didn't watch The Wire because I said I live it.
Yeah,
And
I understand.
and Wendell Pierce and I are very close. And I was like, he's like, you need to watch it. I'm like, I don't know.
You still
Tell
wait,
me.
you still haven't watched it?
I can't get into it because you know why? Because I live here and I
Yeah.
understand. And there is a preacher. He is a bishop, actually, Walter Scott Thomas, the pastor of the late Elijah Cummings. They were best friends. And, we see each other. He checks in on me every now and again. And he said to me, April, there's no other city like Baltimore that has the word failure already embedded into your life.
Mm. Wow.
So I get it. I don't want to see it. And we are survivors here in the city. We have a hard time. But and Be
But
More's in the house. People are saying, hey, Be More, and be more careful too.
yeah.
But
But I read this book actually. This is a really good book that was written. I just happen to have it next to me by Jonathan Abrams. All the Pieces Matter. It's about The Wire, right? And he has a section in there where he talks about how it was a struggle for a lot of Baltimore residents for some of the reasons that you said, but also because they they weren't appreciative as to how the city looked. And I thought about that as I was watching The Wire, being from Detroit, very similar makeup as Baltimore,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Same
But
thing.
you guys, there is a renaissance in Detroit. Detroit, downtown Detroit looks totally different than what it did 10 years ago.
It does, but April, that's always with a double-edged sword because it's a renaissance that doesn't include us, right?
Right,
Okay.
right.
And so that can be while a lot of us who are native Detroiters are grateful to see some of the progress, it's also given the city a much different feel because when I go to downtown Detroit now and I go in a restaurant, I'm like the only Black person in there. And that was like mind blowing to me because this is another one of the chocolate cities, just like Baltimore, DC, Chicago, Atlanta. And to see that soul being slowly rubbed out is hard to take.
And is DC really chocolate city anymore?
Yeah. And I lived in DC, but I live in LA now, but I lived in DC for 6 months before I moved here to LA. And DC, well, Detroit is the blackest city I've lived in. DC is like 1A. And a lot of the people from DC told me, they were like, no, no, what you're seeing right now, this ain't Chocolate City. This is not what it used to be.
Right.
But it's the only place that I've ever lived where I had a Black gynecologist. I had never had a Black gynecologist before I got to DC. I also had my waxer was also Black. It was a Black owned spot. Never happened. Okay.
Really? Well,
Yes.
you
And
need
I
to
was
come up the
like,
road to
what?
Baltimore too. Because let me tell you something. I get it. I get it. You want to support your own, and it's true. I mean, like a lot of my doctors now, I make sure I have Black doctors because a lot of times our mainstream doctors don't understand there are certain health issues that we have
Yep.
that everyone doesn't really study. So that makes perfect sense. That's why we're talking to the great Jemele Hill right now.
But what I was going to say is that a lot of because the residents felt that way about it, I can understand your ambivalence. I thought the one thing that definitely sucked me in is the fact that David Simon was a former newspaper reporter, which are my roots,
Yes.
and he was somebody who did the work and did the reporting. And he spent a year with the police department, and he gives the most accurate panoramic view of the decline, decay, and the issues in an urban city. Because it's not just about these evil Black people. It's not like that at all. It gives it both addicts, drug dealers,
Mm-hmm.
it gives them a certain humanity, and he ties together everything that's wrong in a lot of our major cities. So from that standpoint, I think it's worth the watch, but I do understand from yours why it isn't. I just know that all this Baltimore food that's talked about in The Wire, next time I come there, like I didn't know what a lake
Girl,
trout sub was. I had no idea. But the Wire.
next time you come to my house because I have crabs. I mean, I'm
See?
telling you, we do the steamed crabs. We do it big.
Yeah.
So look, and since we're on Black cities, Blackness, I'm so proud of you. Um,
Oh, thank you.
you speak truth no matter the cost.
Mhm.
And I so appreciate you. But before we get into all of that other stuff, because I'm definitely gonna ask you some stuff. This is a conversation, no holds barred. We are going in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, bottom line, it hurts my heart. We're in this moment, COVID-19. You're working from home too, right?
I am.
Okay, I am too.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate. We are the new privileged class, those who are working from home, who are able to work from home versus the hourly wage workers that we thank God for. But there is a racial problem yet again that is rearing its ugly head.
Mm-hmm.
The racial disparity with those contracting and dying from and not getting tested as well for the coronavirus. John Murray, a dear friend of mine, said, it's interesting. He said this today, and I said, you know what, you're right. It's interesting that they can test dogs now and cats, but Black folks can't get a test. Can I hear an amen?
Right. That
So,
is, oof.
right. So and poor Mayor Keisha
Yeah,
is fighting the good fight. The numbers, 80% of the cases in the state of Georgia
that's crazy.
are us.
Yeah.
And then she's seeing a spike in Atlanta as the governor wants to open. We can play COVID bowling ball. We can have, COVID theater watching. We can have COVID nail
Yeah,
service,
nails. Yeah, apparently we get our nails done.
COVID hair.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts? And only the way that you can tell.
Well, as I mentioned, I'm from Detroit, another hot spot, right?
Yes, Michigan.
And yes, and unfortunately, 3 days ago, my husband's grandmother died of COVID, complications from COVID, I should say. And so it
I
has
said,
hit. Yeah, thank you. It has hit us really close to home. He's had a couple friends that have had it. His uncle also contracted and recovered. Luckily, unfortunately, except for his grandmother, most of the people that he slash I knew recovered from it. But it is this disease, this virus is unfortunately the perfect cocktail to expose the racism, the classism, all those things that we have tried to keep from hidden view have been completely exposed by this virus. Black people, as you know, are make up a huge percentage of these frontline essential workers. A lot of us, as you pointed out, like you and I, we are in the privileged class, is that we are able to work from home. A lot of us are not. And more than anything, with this economy being slowed or shut down, or however you want to look at it, too many of us are having to make the choice between feeding ourselves, providing for our family, and our health and safety. And that puts us directly at risk and directly in the line of fire of this virus, not to mention the inescapable inequities in our healthcare system. I mean, we often are in areas where we receive the worst care. Combine that with the pre-existing conditions that a lot of us also have. So just by layer, and I do, you look, I'm one of those people that I had to come to this conclusion a long time ago that racism wasn't accidental, it was very intentional.
hmm,
And a lot of us were of this naive opinion that just with just enough time, with just enough technology and advancement, progress, that those attitudes would dissipate, but they're even worse and they're even more lethal now. And you best believe it's run through my mind 1,000 times that part of the reason why Brian Kemp, why other politicians have talked so openly about opening up the state is because they are not putting their lives at risk. They're putting our lives at risk. So it's easy because they're not the ones that are going to face the brunt of this virus. They, of course, white people are dying from it too, but the disproportionate rate of which is impacting our community, it feels like a very covert way to perform another genocide on us.
mm.
And notice I said another, right? Because this ain't
I
the first
heard
one
you.
we
I
face.
heard you.
Yeah.
Not the first, but
No.
another. And going back to Michigan, your home state, you're from Detroit, but you also have a city that's still reeling from water that's not safe to drink, Flint, that's having the same problem as Detroit.
Correct. Yep.
So it's crazy. And now I talked to the governor, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, this week
Mm-hmm.
with the NAACP COVID
Mm-hmm.
town hall. And she said the first thing, a couple of weeks ago, she said the first thing that she needed was testing kits, masks, and then ventilators. Well, they got the testing kits, but guess what? They don't have the swabs that they need. Um, and now we're still waiting for all the states to come up with the statistics, the data, as it is showing that blacks are dying disproportionately from this disease. And the president did say that he was going to have the stats in a matter of weeks. The time has run out on that. So that's a whole nother story.
We know that considering that they won't allow mass testing, there is just, I have very little, I have no confidence. It's not even little. I have no confidence that he actually will do anything with these racial statistics, because the other part of it, and that is because the president has surrounded himself and been influenced by people who very much believe in ethnic and racial cleansing, is that, and just by the language in which some of these politicians use, is that in their mind, it's an acceptable, that thousands of us dying is completely acceptable to them. Jared Kushner essentially just said that to look at 60,000 people dying as a victory, to actually verbalize like it's okay if some of y'all died, as long as the rest of us, or I forget that other idiot politician who essentially was like, yeah, if all the old people are killed off, like, so what? And it's just like they really have told us in very blatant ways that
We
they're
don't matter.
okay, that we don't matter, that they're okay with sacrificing the people who they feel like shouldn't and don't count.
So, Jemele, this is the thing people have to understand. And this is a time for critical thinking. And I'm so
Mm-hmm.
glad that I'm talking to you right now. And you touched on it. You talked about their winning, what it looks, the numbers. And it's bigger than that because they're saying the anticipation was a greater number. One life lost is one too many. Okay.
Absolutely.
And now we are well into 40,000 deaths in this nation. But the numbers haven't hit yet where they anticipated. And I'm in the area where they were saying the next 2 to 4 weeks, we are supposed to get the apex of it. But here's the thing, by them opening up governments and opening up the nation economically, they can claim a win by the president saying, oh, the numbers weren't as bad.
Right.
They can try to claim a win.
Right.
It's not a win. This was mismanaged. The question is he still fit to lead? Lysol, in my opinion, nailed the coffin shut.
Really? Because I sort of that coffin was nailed a long time ago. As far as
it was nailed, but it was nailed. But for a lot of their internal numbers at the White House now, the president is very upset because people are. That's one of the reasons why they're not having a briefing, because he is not polling well. He's not doing. He looks
dumb. No, he looks dumb. I mean, like,
okay, well, you said
like, he looks dumb. I mean, he's unfit. He's incompetent, and I'm not saying like people, because I've gotten to this conversation, unfortunately, a lot on social media. Nobody blames the president for the presence of the virus. He can do nothing about that, right? What we blame him for, okay, you're right. I see that look. You're right. You gave me one of them April Ryans. I'm sitting there in the press briefing looks. You're right. Okay. You're right. I know where you're going with this. But all that being said is that once, there has been a very clear established timeline is once he knew about the virus, that was the time to act. And he willingly did not do that. And as a result, he sacrificed thousands of people. And yes, it is totally fair to blame him for what the current death rate is, for what the contagion rate is, and for what the economy looks like. It is completely fair to do this. And, I just think that there's just a certain, hence why, a few years ago, I called him a white supremacist. There's a certain cruelty in which he leads. I know. This is why your gifts on Twitter are like my favorite. This is exactly right. You tell the whole story with your face.
I don't play poker, so I don't play poker. Look, my hand.
I see. I see. But, the reality is that not just him, but the entire administration's complete and utter disregard for life and incompetency. These are being combined together. I mean, Mike Pence can't even wear a mask to a clinic, dude. Like, somebody got to tell you that.
So, and I'm being real honest. I'm not. And let's be really clear, because we got the trolls on here too. Because anything you and I getting together on social media, that's like, we rising up or doing something in their mind. So let me say this, and for you trolls, I don't care who you tell, I'm grown, I'm not scared. So anyway, they're saying that if you come in contact with the virus, you have between 5 and 12 days to show signs of it. And we are in a 5 to 12 day period for many of those who were at those Liberate rallies.
Yep.
And it's been maybe 2 days now for Vice President Pence. I'm tracking the time.
Right.
Because that was not smart. No matter what, it's not smart. You are supposed to wear a mask. And I don't, and that he was playing to a party of one, the president of the United States. And when I say, Jemele, that the president actually sealed the coffin shut, for those who were ever in question about his ability to lead, they learned that day. Because that is such a simple thing. Your mama, when you're 2 years old, tells you don't go in the closet don't go in the cabinet under the sink, because there's Lysol and bleach.
And dangerous chemicals, correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So people understand it. All this other cerebral stuff is not as easy to, pull together. But this one was like slam dunk, bam. And I don't even, look, all net. And I'm not a sports person. I mean, even shattered the glass on that,
Right. No,
you have to laugh to keep from crying for real though, but I don't know.
No, I mean, it's hard because like this is for a lot of people. I mean, I know we all kind of went through the recession rather. This is going to be the most devastating thing most of us have really lived through, from a, of course, we have not on our own soil, but you had the Iraqi war and Afghanistan and other things like that, and those were all devastating, incidents that had a huge human toll. But this is so different. The nature of this is different because we can't really predict when we're coming out of this. And I just don't see, you've been mentioning sports. I don't really see a fan attended sporting event happening till next year, late next year. Like, I
And
don't see how this
that's what I
happens
want.
the rest of the year. There's
So,
no
and
way.
so that's what I want to get to too as well. And I'm glad you did it. You said that because my boyfriend, I don't know what poor thing, he is just like sitting there watching old games on it. I'm
You're
like, and
going
I'm
through
just,
all the 80s basketball right
yeah, and
now.
I'm just sitting like, okay. And then we have watched Michael Jordan's Last Dance
Yeah.
at least 3 times. And I didn't know Scottie Pippen was not paid like he was, So what does that 18 million equate to today, actually?
Well, the contract wasn't very good, mostly because of the years, not necessarily the money. It's unusual to take a 7-year deal, even then, but they were sort of kind of doing that with major superstars who wanted security. They weren't thinking dollar amount, and also realized that television contracts weren't what they are now. Now you have. Like, you might be insulting somebody if you offered them an $18 million contract these days, right? It's just the money just
Really?
was oh yeah, because the money was just a lot different. And I think the average NBA salary is got to be about 3 million a year. So it's like, you really wouldn't offer them not for that length of time for 7 years. That's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
So the TV money is greater. Basketball has become a global sport.
Hmm.
There's so much more money in it than it was then. But what happened with Scottie Pippen does still happen, but in a different form today. And the unfortunate part is, like, Scotty's from Arkansas. He's from a big family. His father was disabled. His brother was disabled. He had the winning lottery ticket in his family.
And he was
And
saying he had to send back money. He was doing
he
things.
did. He had to take care of everybody.
Yeah. Wow.
And to him, having that security meant everything. To be able to say, okay, for 7 years, or I have this guaranteed and this is my contract and I know I'm bringing in this amount of money. So there was a cycle of poverty and conditioning that was taking place when he made this deal, even though his agent told him not to sign it. And if you believe the Michael Jordan documentary, for Jerry Reinsdorf to tell him, like, not to sign it as well, then it's kind of it's just a sad, unfortunate situation. Now, he was able to make money later on in his career, and as a total career earnings, they still were pretty good.
I mean, he
But
did commercials and stuff. He was like the
yeah, he
face of
did.
the
I mean, but
commercials.
he was not he was not the same kind of media darling that Michael Jordan was. I mean, few athletes were, and that was sort of Michael Jordan's lasting imprint that he made, was that he showed that a black man could be a global face of the league. He was the face of Nike. He was the face of the NBA. And when the Dream Team competed, all professionals, in 1992, Michael Jordan, and making basketball a global sport, was a huge, significant chunk of that. So the Jordan documentary has been really good because we've never gotten this intimate look at Michael Jordan, who has, despite being in the public as long as he doesn't let people in often. We're seeing footage that we haven't seen. And so these Sunday nights, I'm sure your boyfriend will be watching this just because he's a sports fan, but it's become even more special because it's a way to briefly escape the pandemic. It's a nostalgia play. And while a lot of people are missing sports, it's taking them back through a time where the NBA's popularity was just so ridiculous because of Michael Jordan.
Now that's when I was watching. I love the Bulls because of Michael Jordan. I mean, just the shots in there. I'm like, who is this person? And I mean, to look back on it now, he looks so young. He looks like he's 2 years old. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and he's maybe a year or two older than I am. I'm like, oh my God, you look so young. But ESPN right now has got two things. They had the draft and this Jordan thing.
Yeah.
And this thing is going to be a little long haul. I mean, we're expecting 2 years. Now, when I say 2 years, guys, listen to this. Susan Rice, former National Security Advisor, former Homeland Security Head Jay Johnson said this. Valerie Jarrett even acknowledged this, that you have to get the vaccine. We have to find the vaccine. That's going to be a year and a half out. then you have to have it mass produced, and then you
Hmm.
have to have a global immunization, not just here, a
Yep.
global immunization. So with that, Jamel, what is ESPN going to do all this time? Because you're saying next year for sports. Do
Yeah, I
you
mean, for
think?
I said for fan attended, right?
No,
So
fantasy.
I
Oh, for fantasy.
yes,
Okay, but do
yeah, I
you
don't
think
think
if we're still out without a vaccine, that they're going to have fan attended?
no, they're not going to have fan attended games. I think those are off the table. I mean, your timeline I think is pretty accurate. I would say minimum a year, and but likely probably 2 years. Yeah, because you there's no way that you can have that many people. There's no socially distant way to watch sports. I mean, you can, but what you're going to have maybe arenas at like 10% capacity, 20%. It seems like it'd be better off just playing with no fans at all, and then you don't have to worry about what they have or haven't been exposed to, or for that matter, exposing each other. I mean, look, I don't know how often you go outside, but when we just walk around our neighborhood, it's hard enough just to like try to avoid people on the sidewalk, and try to try to make sure that you're staying as distant from people as possible. So I can't imagine what that would look like inside of a sporting event. The difficult part is this is with sports, you're going to have to sequester the athletes, and
Mm.
understandably for them, because you're talking about like the NBA lasts 6 to 8 months. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're going to have players away from their families for that long. You're going to most of them aren't going to like that. With the NFL, it's a shorter season. You're talking about something that goes from September through February, the first week of February. What do you I mean, they'd have to certainly have a number of tests available. So they'd be testing players literally all the time, and trying to have a sport like football. You can't, I mean, it's an intimate sport. You hit people, you pile on people, you touch people. That's what it is. And I know you have on gloves and helmets and this kind of stuff, but there's just a lot of, it seems very much like that could create its own petri dish. So I think
Mm.
right now, a lot of these leagues, these commissioners, they're trying to figure out a way. Is there a socially distant way that they can execute their sport? I think not having the fans, they're okay with that as long as they can broadcast the games, because the money comes from television more so than it comes from people buying, paying their ticket. And I'm sure they would create some, kind of pay-per-view type of way that you can watch some of your favorite teams. So they
Mm.
create some level to generate more money from sports, but it's going to be tough, much like concerts. Think about, when is the next time you think you're going to go to a concert? Like, we might be 2 or 3 years from that.
I
I
was
mean,
supposed to go to Paris in June. I was like, oh, and I wanted to go see Janet this summer. How about
same,
that? I
same,
started
same.
5, 4, 3, 2. I can't even do one. Rhythm
Mm,
Nation, Janet Jackson. If you're watching, come on, sis, do something.
right.
Do a pay-per-view or something. But someone, I have a bunch of people. I mean, you have sports followers. You've got major followers. I've got people who are saying, one, it's an outlet. Sports is an outlet. We know this. I
We
know they're
know.
an extension of you when the players play. But people are also asking, what about golf? That's social distancing.
Yeah, and I'm sure that if you had to pick which sport would be back the soonest, golf would probably be in that category, just because of the nature of how it's played. I mean, you have to stand apart from people, but that would still have to be something not played in front of fans. I just don't see any way for any sport to come back and be played in the view of fans. It's just not going to happen. The other thing you have to think about too, if we're talking about
Until
entertainment.
after a vaccine, until after
Until
a
after a
vaccine.
vaccine,
Yeah.
correct. And then the other thing that you have to think about too is we're all consuming entertainment and shows and all these things at a mass rate. So when is the next time Hollywood will be able to produce something new? Like right now, I mean, luckily things are usually shot out a year or 2 years in advance, particularly movies. I saw AMC. They have chosen to fight the good fight against Universal for releasing Trolls, but that may be our reality. And what that'll do is that will sink movie theaters. Because again, much like concerts, sporting events, when is the next time we will all feel comfortable going to those things?
I'm
We
not going to
won't.
be sitting. My boyfriend, I'll be on my couch. I am not sitting in the theater. No, no, I don't care what movie comes out. But and I talked to Holly Robinson Pete last night. We were talking about that. How will actors feel comfortable with each other now?
Right.
Those love scenes, those no more 50 Shades of Gray or in between colors
They're gonna
or
be
off
50.
white
It's
or
gonna be called 50
beige.
feet apart. That's what it's gonna be called. Or
50 Shades of Beige, The
yeah.
Blend.
But even from a creative standpoint, could you produce some content now where you couldn't pretend we were living under the cloud of a virus. So there's certain things you even have to creatively deal with and say, okay, if you come out with a sitcom now, it has to reflect that COVID is now a part of our daily life. This isn't temporary. This is what people have to understand, is like, this ain't temporary, right? This is going to be our
Our
existence
new
for a
normal.
while. Yeah, and I know it's depressing to think about it. I mean, I'm not saying that our existence is going to be us being, inside of our homes for most of the day. I mean, I think little by little, there'll be small things that we'll be able to resume like normal. But generally speaking, I just feel like this is going to have to be a reality that we learn how to live with.
I love how Saturday Night Live is trying to make it work.
That
This
is going to
weekend was
be,
fire. This
yes, it
weekend was
was.
fire.
That's going to be a new reality, though, for a lot of shows.
Yeah, I talked to, we had actor Samuel Jackson and Latanya Richardson on a couple. You watched that one a
I
couple
did.
weeks
I did.
ago.
I love Sam Jackson.
Yeah, he's amazing, and he was talking about that. Everything he was working on is shut. Both of them were working on shutdown.
Yep.
Grisha Webb, my homegirl from Baltimore, who's in everything. She's on
Mm-hmm.
AF right now. That's right now on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix. But things are shut down. She's home. But this is kind of a creative space for people. And I talked to Holly Robinson Pete, and she said the same thing last night. There is a new normal that we're going to have to deal with until the vaccine, and even after a vaccine. Our consciousness is going to remember this moment and remember the fear of, oh my God, am I going to get sick? Oh my
Yeah.
God, or will I die? But in the midst of that, and you're bringing up some really good points. How would you program now, ESPN, or what would you program right now for the average person? Since you got
Well,
your hand in a lot of
I
things.
do. But I think, well, from a show standpoint, um, I think people have to get used to TV shows looking like this, right? Okay. Either not necessarily through IG Live, but there's a lot of programs like Zoom you can record on, for example. So I have two podcasts, and like the Wire podcast, we're recording on Zoom. It's available on YouTube, as well as Apple and Spotify, but people can see the video by that. And Van and I are in two separate places, and that's how we're doing television. And so if you're ESPN, this is really going to be extremely challenging. The Michael Jordan documentary gives them a boost right now, but what are they going to do when that's over? And realize that they moved up the start of it. It wasn't supposed to start when it did. It wasn't supposed to start, I think, till like next month or something like that. It was coming this summer. I know that, but they moved it up to take advantage of the fact that a lot of people were at home and they could do big ratings. Um, they've tried to create some sporting events, like they had a horse competition. I think you're going to see.
I love the equestrian competitions now. My children ride. I can do
See,
that. And
there
I
you
like and
go.
I like the curling. I like the curling. Let me see somebody brush somebody and push a thing down, a ball down. Yes.
There's going to be some emphasis on some individual sports. They'll probably try to create some things off the fly. And the I don't know what they're going to do when it's football season, because football takes up so much of the programming at ESPN. So much is built off of it, because you not only have Monday Night Football, but you have an NFL Countdown show, you have NFL Live, you have all different programming that's built around plays. So they need the sports leagues to come up with a way to play in a pandemic. They need it, because I'm not saying that ESPN is going to go away, even though the other part
Oh
they have
no,
to,
it's never gonna go away.
it's never going to go away. But the other part that they have to worry about is Disney. Is that Disney, because the theme parks, look, Disney owns ESPN, not the other way around. And the reason that Disney owns ESPN is because those theme parks and the movie business makes absurd amount of money. So both of those are in trouble right now. There's no theme parks open.
That's right.
They
Mickey and Minnie are not smiling and shaking hands, and
no.
Donald is not happy.
Yeah, I mean, and the best that ESPN can do is continue to roll out old games, old footage, build things around that. But even that has its limits, because after a while, even if, my favorite show probably to watch on repeat is probably The Office. But even there are times where I get tired of The Office, you know what I'm saying? It's like, how many times you going to watch, Lakers Celtics in 87? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you have to have something to kind of accommodate where they are. And I think they're just going to have to get extremely creative. Um, as it was, gaming was already big on YouTube. Like a lot of people, hey, I would have never guessed growing up, as much as I play video games, that you could actually get paid to play them. and more importantly, people will pay to watch you play them and to figure stuff out. So it's just kind of like, all right, so
You're
you're gonna
bringing me
see,
into a whole new
yo,
world. I'm like,
look,
huh?
they've already had NBA 2K tournaments involving NBA players. You're gonna see a lot more of that stuff. What is individual and could be done in your home or not around other people? That suddenly, you know, is gonna be a thing.
A thing of a thing.
Yeah.
So let's get on the personal right now. You are
Hmm.
a newlywed. You are a
I am.
newlywed.
I
You
am.
are a newlywed. You are a newlywed. Quarantine.
I
I mean,
know. This feels a lot like our honeymoon, except for we're not in the Maldives. That's the only difference. Yeah.
so it's going well still.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've heard some funny stories from people, both single and those who are in relationships, about you know, being in a pandemic with your significant other, especially like if you're married, you know, you kind of like got to learn. Not that we argue a lot, but you got to learn how to disagree differently because where you gonna go?
I know. That's what I tell people. I'm like, and all these numbers of domestic violence and people talking about getting divorced. Where you gonna go right now? I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, especially it's really sad when it comes to both, you know, domestic violence, both for women and for children,
Mm,
because even though you see that the cases are going down, that's not a reflection that the problem is not there. It's a
right.
reflection that people don't feel comfortable reporting it right now, or that in
Yeah.
some cases the police, because of everything else they're dealing with, aren't able to make those calls anymore.
And the crazy thing is, I was always taught as a child, your home is your castle, your safe space. For some people, your palace is your prison. And I cannot,
Mm.
and it just hurts my heart to hear that. And school or the office was a safe space, not the home. So my prayers, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I started this, to kind of help people out, take their minds off of the craziness. Um, and it's just, it just hurts my heart, but I'm glad to hear that
Yeah,
you
no,
are.
everything is going good, and we're lucky because he's in a profession where, you know, he can work from home for the most part, and so it's amazing. Like honestly, on a day-to-day basis, it's very common that we will spend 6 or 7 hours apart in different rooms, because I'm in the office here because I'm finishing up my book. So the pandemic's good for finishing books. That's for sure.
Pandemic is about creativity.
Yeah.
I'm writing another one too.
You write another one. See, I'm just trying. All I know is going through this process. If you write a book, you just crazy. Like, what is wrong? I was like, why did I do this? Why did I decide to
Oh
do this?
God.
But yeah, I was like, and you've written one, so you've been
I've written
through this. Yeah, I was like,
3.
yeah, I was like, you've written multiple books. I mean, this is my first time going through this, so I'm just like, but no, it's not odd because he has conference calls and Zoom calls. I got a bunch of Zoom calls and writing to do. And even though Hollywood production has slowed down, because I also have a production company,
Mhm.
content buying has not. And if anything,
Mhm.
it's increased because they're waiting on the slightest. You know, California, the good thing is that California is a little ahead of the curve than other states.
Mhm.
Just what I think it was today or yesterday, it's free coronavirus testing for every LA resident, for any LA resident. You can get it free,
Mhm.
right? So it's widely available here. Governor Newsom has been a strong picture of leadership, as the mayor, the LA mayor, Eric Garcetti. So they've been really good. And so I have a feeling that we will be one of the first states that will kind of see a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. But, you know, nevertheless, you know, Hollywood is still moving. It's people aren't able to shoot things, but I still have a ton of meetings. I'm still reviewing scripts. I'm still doing a lot of stuff. So my
Mhm.
days in the pandemic have been busier than they were before,
Someone
which is
asked.
a blessing.
Someone asked. Well, that is a blessing. I tell people this is fight or flight. This is the time that you have to really figure out. I read the book Who Moved My Cheese. You can't sit there. You got to figure out, and only you can do it for you. This is a time that you really have to figure out where your strengths lie and
Mm.
who you are, so you can create something that can bring in extra cash or do something powerful for your family. So I appreciate you for this. For creatives, this is a time of pulling back from everyone and just really getting that space and that time just to keep moving, just to keep moving. And I appreciate that. So I want to go back to something. Oh, first of all, someone asked, what's the name of your production company?
Oh, it's called Lodge Freeway Media. And so Lodge Freeway is a freeway in Detroit. Oh, it's funny. I saw my makeup artist just pop up in here. Hey, Tony, I told her about how you hooked me up with the little case because, Tony knows I don't know how to do my makeup. So
Tony, what you need to do is do a tutorial, a
I'm telling
video.
you,
Do a video slowly so you hear me, we can get it.
we,
She's like,
but
hey
see,
girl,
April, you
so
already
we can.
got yours together though.
I
You
know,
already
but
have
if you can always get some new tips.
new
See, I
tips.
learned you have to have to make a pretty lip. This I'm gonna give you this. You have to
Okay.
have a lip liner and a nice color and maybe even some gloss.
Oh, I do have gloss. I do
So
have
you have
gloss.
okay, but you have to have some two other components to
Yes, I do. I got to
work
work
with
on
it.
the liner. I'm going to work
Okay.
on that.
Thank you for loving my hair. I did it myself. Oof.
See?
I know. It's like I don't know how to use a curling iron. I was like turning it. It wasn't even a curling iron. It was whatever the flat iron. But anyway, moving on. So
Yes.
but no, I want to move to something else. I want to go back to President Trump.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of President Trump?
Well, I mean, I guess I've sort of made it clear to some degree,
No,
but
but
my
now
opinion,
even more so now that we know
oh
what
man,
we
my
know.
opinion hasn't changed. I mean, all he did, when I tweeted that in 2017 and, got in a lot of trouble for it and everything, all he has done is prove me right every single day. Every single day. I still think he's a bigot. I still think he's a white supremacist. But mostly, I just think he's cruel. And that's the part, I guess, I'm not saying I can live with any of those parts, but that's the part that I'm not necessarily amazed by, but that's the part to me that's so disrespectful and disheartening is that the level of cruelty that he has for people. Like he doesn't want to govern. He's not interested, certainly not in governing all of us, that's for sure. And he shows absolutely no remorse or no level of integrity. And he plays with people's lives all the time. I mean, to him, this shit doesn't even matter to him. And at the end of the day, him and his crooked ass family will have collected as much money as possible because they've been fleecing this country since they got in there, and they're doing it even now. And so it's just like this, he will be able to walk away from this infinitely much richer than he came in. And while he may be despised and reviled on a lot of levels, I'm not just disappointed in him for the type of leader he is. I'm disappointed at us as a nation for letting him get in there. And it's to me, I know my mother and my grandmother, the ancestors, they lived through far more dark days than this. And so I don't ever want to disrespect them by comparing this to what they lived through. But I think we're getting a taste of what they did. And I'm lucky that we have the little bit of freedoms that we have, because it could be much worse under a much different, if that, not necessarily the Bill of Rights, but if there's no Civil Rights Act that was ever passed, this could look a whole lot differently. But I'm really disappointed in us that we would look at somebody like that and think that this is somebody who not only needs to lead our nation, but needs to represent it. And so I have found in this time, since he's been elected, people that I know either quietly or loudly support him, it's been impossible for me to forgive those people. Impossible, because I'm just like, you just really, you sicked a rodent on us, a rodent, a ferocious rodent on this country. You done let the biggest roach in the White House, and now we good luck getting them out. Can of rain ain't gonna do this. Not gonna do it. So
So
that's how I feel personally.
and the reason why I asked you that because you know it was Maxine Waters, myself, Susan Rice, and some other people early on, and then it was you. You made some statements, and this is way at the beginning of the
Yeah,
administration.
yeah,
And now we're how many years later?
yeah.
They never expected to get this bad.
What dawned on me, and I'm sure it's dawned on you, is that when I was watching the presidential debates, it's amazing that we have just come to normalize and accept the fact that people openly refer to the president as a racist, because that was being done on the debate stage, and I was like, we really got somebody up in the White House that everybody calls a racist, and everybody's like, yeah, it's just what it is. Now, granted, that wasn't the case when I did it, and certainly not when Maxine Waters did it. Is that that seemed to be new information to people, despite the fact those receipts have been there for
Mhm.
a long time. And clearly the president has a lot of problems with being called out by women, and especially by Black women.
Women of color. Oh
Women
my
of
God.
color, period, get under his skin in a particular way. And that's because it was people like you and Maxine Waters and AOC, Frederica, a long list of people who have exposed who he really is.
And what's crazy is when it happened, and you were all up in that, and I was like, oh my God. And girl, you were just like balls to us. I'm like, I don't care. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, woo. See, I had to sit in that room. I was sitting there like, oh my God, Jemele.
Well, it was funny because like it wasn't you, but it was somebody. I'm trying to think of who else I knew that was in that room. And a lot of my friends are news and political reporters. They weren't all in the room with Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Said that what I said was fireable, but
Yeah.
that like they were all blowing my phone up, and especially when he tweeted about me. I was asleep when he did because he's like the middle of the night dude or very early morning. And so I didn't see it until I looked at it when a friend of mine called me texted me. And I just kind of laughed because I was just like, this dude ain't got nothing better to do than to care about what an ESPN anchor has said on Twitter.
He's watching Fox and talking
Yes,
about people. But I'm
correct.
going to say this to you. How did it feel? And I don't talk about, well, I have talked about it to nauseum, but we haven't talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
But you said it was okay. It didn't bother you. But for me,
His reaction didn't bother me. The white Sarah Huckabee Sanders, what she said didn't bother me, although she don't want to run into my mama. It might be something, but that's all. Because I told you, my mother called the White House. It's so hilarious. I don't know why she did this because
her taxpayer dollars are paying for her to get up there and spew the lies
yes,
and
and she
talk to
was like,
me the
"You ain't
way
gonna
she's
be talking
talking to
about
you.
firing my baby. That ain't gonna happen." And as I often told her, when she would talk about it, I'm like, "What were you gonna do if he picked up? Like, what was you gonna say? Well, where was that conversation about to go?"
That
but,
is crazy.
but, but no, I wasn't bothered by that response. The bothersome part to me, that will never really sit right for me, is that the kind of the collateral damage of what happened. The collateral damage was at the time at ESPN, me and my co-host Michael Smith, we're working on Sports Center. We're having a lot of issues with the show. We're trying to get things right. And this was like a grenade that dropped in the middle of what we're trying to do, as professionals. And we were going through a tough time there. This certainly didn't help. And my co-host, the fact that I kind of had to get taken out of the mix with my suspension, he was left to man the ship. And that put him in a really unfair position. And there was, even the president of the ESPN at the time, John Skipper, who is somebody I have a good relationship with. And um, I don't think he necessarily disagreed with what I said, and I'm taking some liberties there by passing that along. But from a business standpoint, Disney was in a tough spot. He was in a tough spot. And so it just kind of put some people I really cared about and respected in some
How
really
can you
difficult positions.
explain this Black woman's comments about this president to people at NASCAR?
Yeah. But here's the odd thing is like I didn't get the sense, at least from what I was told and what I heard, I didn't get the sense that there was brushback from leagues. The brushback was from the shareholders from Disney, because best believe my name came up at a shareholders meeting that Bob Iger had to explain why I was still employed, and that was not a great moment for me. And so it was that part of it. I mean, I had a meeting with Iger personally, who was, personally supportive. And it's interesting because I gotta say, Ava, I gotta say this before the book, because there is somebody that you and I both know, and I'll tell you off air, who actually told him and agreed that I should have been suspended. And when I tell you who this person is, you're gonna be like, "Oh, really? That's interesting." But I'm saving that one for my book. At any rate, and
Someone in Connecticut? Someone in Connecticut?
nah, nah, nah. Mm-mm. I can't tell you where because you'll guess right away, and so will everybody else. So I'm not. I'm gonna
Girl,
tell you
don't let me
offline.
say this. Let me say this. I got a feeling I know who, and I'm because I
but
think
but
I can say I can give you some information. Just because they are skin folk don't mean they are kin folk. That's
but
all
I
I'm.
but I hold. Look, I agree with my own suspension. I was like, yeah, but it was only because but it was a price I was willing to pay. I was good with it. I was just like, okay, y'all a business. Y'all have to protect the bottom line. You have to protect the image. You got to protect the shield. Do what you got to do. That's not going to change what I think, and it's not going to change what I have to say. So the only parts that bothered me was that collateral damage, and also what how it changed my life. And by changing my life, I mean, you know, I had to have security, and I getting all these death threats. You know how this is that I'm used to operating and moving how I want to move and doing what I want to do. And
You
then
had to protect yourself, your
yep,
family, your
correct.
kid. But I got kids.
Yeah, you
It's
have
not an
kids.
easy
Yeah,
thing, and
yeah,
it's and you probably, your head like mine is probably always on the swivel because you never know
right.
when
Because they know what you look like. You don't know what they look like.
right, and
Yep.
you can't trust anybody. Well,
Hmm.
yeah, that's a whole. We'll talk about that later. But we'll talk about that.
Yeah, but that was like the biggest thing, that this, what the president thinks of me or doesn't think of me, I could give a shit. I mean, I honestly could. And so, it's like whatever. All right.
I'm gonna say this to you. I don't care what he thinks about me, but what bothers me is these self-righteous, Jesus-loving people who are supporting
Girl. Oof.
this.
Mm.
And not only supporting this, but sending letters of death to me and talking the stuff that they say.
But in the name of Jesus, though.
And,
Right.
and under the name of the American flag
Oh, that's
and
even better.
patriotism.
Yeah.
I am forever changed. I love people more, but I put boundaries around me and how I love now.
Mm.
Because you don't know. I mean, I'll tell you later. We'll talk offline.
Right.
But I'm just going to say this, guys. When you get to a certain level, yeah, and I pray for your Mish every day.
Oh, wait. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought her up, because I was going to ask you, what have you told her? Because you have been through that experience.
And that's the thing. Okay, so a couple weeks ago, that Sunday, that she was like, "Duh, duh, 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 duh," and President Trump, and I was watching. I was in my kitchen, and I had, in another room, I had the TV on, and I was watching. I said, "Oh, Yamiche," and I was like,
Mm.
"Oh," and I'm texting her right. I said, "Yamiche, pull back, pull back." And I said, I can tell it when he gets that way. And he sure enough came at her saying, "Oh, well, you used to work for this and you did this."
Yep.
And that. I said, Yamiche, he's trying to warn you. He knows you. He's following your information. Watch it.
Right.
And I
Right.
called her that night. And people were saying, "Oh, April Ryan didn't support Yamiche publicly on Twitter or on social media." I do it every day. I talk to Yamiche. We trust and believe. I don't have to call everybody because I am the standard bearer up there. Before all of them started, bip, 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 I was doing it. So I'm the one who let it be known with the receipts that this is happening, that there's
Mm-hmm.
retribution. No one wanted to believe it, but now it's here. So Yamiche and all of them have told me, because you stood, we stand. But my prayer for her is that these crazy folks won't do what they've done to me.
Well, let
To
me
her.
ask. This is what I wondered. Like, is there solidarity among the White House report?
No,
Okay,
no.
because
There's
I
a
I
new
guessed
group.
that there
There's a
wasn't.
new group. There's
Right.
a whole new group,
Yep.
and then some of them are conservative. Now you
Yeah.
interviewing me. Come on now. Um,
I
some
know. Yeah.
I know some of them are conservative. Some of them are liberal. Some of them are middle of the road. Like I try to be Walter Cronkite. You don't know my politics. I'm just giving you a straight up story. But you got some of the new ones. Oh, all she thinks is it's all about her, or all she thinks is it's about. I'm like, you know what? I've been here, done that. Once you are covering 4 presidents consecutively for 23 years, maybe you can call me then. Okay? You got little kids up there hating on you, writing nasty stories, and running back to the administration talking about you. Okay? Little spies. And if any reporter, yes, I said it.
Mm.
So
Mm.
don't get me started. I'm not. Why do you have me on the hot
Oh
seat?
no, because I wanted to know that, because I reached out to Yamiche too, and I was just like, and I did on social media, and then her and I we had a chat through text offline, just to let her know, like, I'm in the paint for you, dog. What you need, I got you. Because to go through that on a daily basis, and she should definitely be commended for her composure. But if she just had one of the moments one day,
I've
I
warned her
wouldn't
and I
blame.
told her to be careful. And what in 2020, you and I should not have to pay for bodyguards because we speak the truth about fact. and
Mm-hmm.
worry behind what's behind our back. I've had to move my residence because of this. And because if you find me, you really have to be looking for me. That's all I
Right.
got to say.
Right. Right.
But this is in this day and time, you know, this our founding fathers who never imagined you were April or Jemele Hill or Yamiche Alcindor in that White House. They put freedom of the press up there for us.
Mm-hmm.
First Amendment. And I stand on that. And I stand on the fact that Colin Kaepernick was being patriot. He was being a patriot for this country. When people take stances that make people uncomfortable in a peaceful way, not hurting anyone, or ask a question of the United States, nothing's wrong. Dr. King talked about freedom of the press. Dr. King made the comfortable uncomfortable because of situations in this country that were unjust and not equal.
Mm. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think the people, they don't realize, and this is not to say the media is perfect, so I hope you guys don't understand
No,
that. Like,
we're
we're
not.
not,
We
we're
make
far from
mistakes.
it. We got a lot of issues that have been exposed in this country, but without a free press, the democracy can't work. And um, they don't understand that when April Ryan is sitting there asking the president these questions, she's asking on behalf of you as a
And
taxpayer.
it's not about me. It's
It's not
about,
about
that's
you. It's
right.
about asking on behalf of the people, the millions of people, the 300 million people who can't be in that room. So this part really saddens me. Among the many things about this presidency is that he has actively been able to weaponize the citizens against the press. And I don't think they understand how much they would not know if it wasn't for us. Like, think about what you would know about COVID if the media wasn't challenging this president all the time about the information. Hopefully none of y'all would be putting Lysol and drinking it straight up. Hopefully that wouldn't happen.
And
But when you remove
we
us, you
need that
remove that.
information. And we need that information you promised a couple of weeks ago on the black stats so that they can move forward
You wouldn't know
on
about that
trying to
either.
triage.
Correct.
I'm praying. But here's the bottom line. And I'm gonna continue to do what I do from home and press on in social media. But the bottom line is when you have and I have the utmost respect for the office of president and that seat and whoever holds the seat. But I'm gonna say this. When you say liberate and people go carrying guns at a time of crisis going against the CDC, because this is about all of us. Because once they leave the state capitol with their guns and go back into the community, they're bringing it to us.
Yep. Absolutely. Man, because I just can't believe that Michigan, I mean, I can believe it. Don't get me wrong, because people understand Detroit is just a small piece of Michigan, all right? Once you go further north, that it is very conservative, very red, very what you saw at the Capitol. And to see these morons storming the Capitol with guns, I like to know them to explain what having an assault rifle has to do with fighting a virus. I just love for them, one of them to explain that to me because I
It
don't know
has
what it is.
nothing to do with the Second Amendment. They were talking about um, uh, gay marriage. They were talking about everything under the sun,
But this virus out there,
but the economy and the virus.
out there, hazmat suits talking about the virus fake. Okay, well, sir and ma'am, I get walk around there, shake each other's hands, do all that. Okay, since you think all this is fake, why don't you be the test dummy that helps prove if that hypothesis is true or not? But it also, as I may mention on Twitter, is that it's interesting how those kind of protests, the narrative around them are so different than versus a Colin Kaepernick. And when he was doing his peaceful protest, which was about his personal beliefs and choices, he was told to shut up. He was called un-American, wasn't a
Can't get a
patriot.
job. Can't
He
get a
couldn't
job.
can't get a job, right? But
Now,
these
but I
people,
mean, I do pledge allegiance to the flag, and I
yeah,
stand up because
yeah.
I live in this country. But has this country always been right to us?
No,
No.
I mean, it's very small windows in history when they have, and even that is under question. So for people to be storming the Capitol and walking around with guns, and in some cases in Michigan, actually blocking the emergency routes for hospital workers, for a haircut and to go bowling and to go golfing and to go, it's just like, all right, our priorities are clearly not in order. And it's just interesting that white people can walk around with guns and not be threatening.
But if it was us, we'd be
Oh,
in jail
we unarmed. We sell cigarettes. We die.
and
We die when we sell cigarettes.
cry out 11 times. I can't breathe. We're talking about the late Eric Garner. girl, Jemele Hill.
April, thank you so much. I appreciate doing
This
this. And I'm
went
glad
by
you're
like
doing
that.
I'm glad you're doing these conversations because I've certainly learned a lot. I love when you had Susan Rice on, and just all of these interviews have just really
And you
been
have been
outstanding.
watching. I said, Jemele is
Yeah,
watching
I
my
pop
stuff.
in. I was like, I see April Ryan is live. I'm like, let me go up in here to see who she talking to.
Well, I'm talking to you tonight, my sister. I so appreciate you.